Hi, guys. Welcome to the My and John podcast. We are your hosts, My and yours truly, John. Welcome to the fifth episode of our weekly podcast. We try our best to do it every week. Sometimes, life comes up. But we're here now. This is the fifth episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Halfway through our 10 podcast initial goal.
So I think that brings up a good point. Maybe we can talk about our experience so far, how it's like. It's the first time you kind of jumped on board to do a podcast.
Yeah.
So how's it been for you?
It's been. I find that it's been. I guess I have a lot more to say than I realized. Like we talk a lot regularly. Obviously living together and working together and sharing a family together, and but it's very interesting that we can come on here and we just have a lot more to share and a lot more to talk about, and definitely a lot to reflect on.
Yeah, for sure.
On sharing,
Yeah. And I find for me personally, once you commit to something that is like a weekly task, there are things behind the scene, like when it comes to producing a podcast, which is, and we are doing it bare minimum basic. Basically, we turn on our camera, we turn on Zoom, we record the audio where we can put on to the Anchor platform, which then kind of launch it out to Spotify. But I actually record it straight on my iPhone, and then I afterwards we upload. But even as basic as it is, our setup, I find there's still a lot of little things behind the scene. Like after we record, we have to upload it, and then we have to create a thumbnail, a YouTube thumbnail for our upload. And then I guess that's it. But to me, that's a little bit extra things. And sometimes, YouTube works where I'm able to upload. Sometimes it takes days to upload. And I guess those are the things as we go along, we will learn as well too. But I also noticed like staying committed to doing things on a weekly basis is good. However, things do come up. There are weeks where it's like, money making activities becomes more important, like, meeting with clients, lots of different meetings, or things that come up with some of our rentals that we have to run to, and then by 3:00 we have to pick up our kids. And then when our kids are home, it's hard. Like you can tell them, be quiet, we're gonna do a recording, but they'll probably come in and say, mommy, daddy, this and that. Like we have a 4-year-old.
She tends to like to do whatever, like the opposite of what you tell her.
Yeah. So we only, like, every week we have Monday to Friday. And generally what we like to do, we have a system where we record either on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then we publish it out and we do some editing if we have to, and then we kind of launch it out on Friday. And we haven't even really promoted or do anything. Well, it wasn't really our purpose to do this to really get a lot of people watching or anything. I guess the initial goal was just for us to kind of get into the routine of creating a platform where we're able to share our thoughts, reflect, and just kind of see what comes out from there, right?
Yeah, well, I think for me, the purpose or one of the objectives of doing the podcast for me was it was a platform for us to share stories, in our work life and our personal life, that eventually I would love to be able to share some of these stories with our kids at some point. I think they wouldn't understand some of the stories and lessons that we're sharing now, but a few years from now, it's nice to be able to have some of the stories in our life recorded so that they can, instead of hearing it directly from us, which sometimes I feel like especially with Tyson. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. With Tyson, he likes to hear stories when it's story time. He likes to hear our experiences But it's got to be at a time when he's like, he's ready to listen.
Yeah.
Which is
Otherwise,
usually
he
at
feel
night.
like it's like you're trying to scold him or you're giving him this lesson, and he's in his head. He's like, I know, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's the challenge, I think, is that we have to really remember is like like from Christmas until the spring. I feel like it's our busiest.
Mm-hmm.
It's our busiest quarter. It's always our busiest quarter. It's the most hectic. You've got once you hit Christmas, then it's Abby's birthday, then you got New Year's, and then we try to squeeze some skiing and snowboarding trips in there, and then you get into like Valentine's Day, and then it's your birthday, and then we got our anniversary, and then we got to think about taxes, and then it's my birthday. It's usually the first few months are a little hectic, and we tend to. I mean, to start a podcast was this was like the best and most busiest time to be able to start.
Yes, but I mean, somehow we managed to kind of squeeze it in, and we hope to continue, right?
Yeah.
I do feel like if we can dedicate just an hour, life always gets busy, and we will always come up with excuses why, this is not worth the time. But I've never come off of a conversations, and this time around it's with you, but in the past where I'd invite guests for an interview, I never come off of a conversation feeling like, oh, that was a waste of time. No, it was always, wow, that was an amazing conversation. I love the energy. I love the lessons that I learned. I was able to pick someone else's brains. I think we're still holding off on inviting guests, but I do have a list of guests that I wanted to come on board and have a conversations and just kind of like talk about different topics that I feel they would have a lot of insights and great inputs on. Right. But for this episode, maybe we can share some of the things that has happened in our life recently. Any interesting stories? Do you have any interesting story?
Well, I mean, aside from it was your birthday last week, so for everybody, happy belated birthday to mine.
I did a lot of celebration already.
Yeah, it's like you celebrate your birthday month. You always say it at the beginning of the like in January, you start your planning and stuff like that, and you always say it's, your birthday month. And then when you execute it, it's just like, geez, it actually is your birthday month. You've got several different groups of friends that, all want to celebrate you, and family as well. And, I think you're definitely blessed when it comes to celebrating your birthday, in February. The challenge is like it's like the coldest month, and it's when the weather is probably the worst, where we live, and so it's always challenging to get people together on one specific night. So you definitely spread it out, and
yeah. And I shared this in one of my posts on Instagram, which I'll tell you a little bit. The fact that I guess I'm a only child, and growing up, I always wanted to belong, and I always wanted to feel like accepted. I wanted to have like lots of different friends, and kind of, so throughout my life I have collected. So when I go to school, I have friends from elementary school, then I was put into scouts, and then I made friends in scouts, and then after that in high school I was part of different dance groups, and I made friends around those dance groups, and then I was volunteering for different organizations, then university, I think throughout and workplace as well too. And I realized that I really value relationships. So I never some people, as they move on to different phases of life, you kind of let go of certain old relationships and you build new one. But for me, I think I hold on to every single relationships I have in the past as much as I can, right? Sometimes I mean, there are parts of my life where I kind of disappear from some of my friends, whether because the work, I required to really focus on the work. When I met you, when we were doing door to door, I was really focused for a couple of years just building my business. And then when I was in university, I was focused in university, so I didn't have time to hang out with some of my elementary school or high school friends as much. However, I feel I always value their friendships and their relationships, even though I might get to see them once a year or twice a year. And so what happened is I tend to continue to put in the effort to carry on those relationships. And then when I met you, you came along with lots of different friends that I found are very amazing people that I want to also build a relationship with.
Well, yeah, to that point, our growing up, our childhoods were very contrasting in specifically in regards to you growing up as a single child. I only have one brother, but I had many cousins that I grew up with that were very close to me. And whereas you sort of, your social groups were who you identified with at a young age. Well, I guess it was a little bit different because it's not like you grew up here. Like you came here to Ontario or Toronto already, and late in elementary school. I grew up, and I've always lived within an hour of where I was born, or an hour and a half of where I was born, even until now. I identified, and I had a lot of family that, we were very close with. And then, I did make a lot of friends, but at the end of the day, my family was
your priority.
My priority.
Well, when I came here too, I have cousins in Montreal, right? But we moved to Toronto, and then my cousins in Toronto are all much older than me. When I was in school, they're already high school. When I was in grade 4, let's say they're already in high school, and by the time I'm in high school, they're married with kids. So it's a huge age gap. So I basically go through life, and I'm a curious individual. Maybe because I'm a monkey, I'm always questioning. So when I meet someone, I feel like it's an opportunity for me to learn from them. I learn what to do and what not to do. So it's both. So I never kind of discriminate either. Like they might have different values, different lifestyle, but I find it so interesting. As long as they were genuinely nice, as long as they were, they were honest and nice and they care, the relationship can be formed. It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor, or it doesn't matter if they come from single family, a single mom family, because back then, for me, I look at my family a certain way, and then I see many of my friends have many different situations, but it didn't really matter, right? So anyways, the point of the story is I continue to collect all these friends. So by now that I just turned 43, I realize I have a lot of friends. Throughout my life, there are some that, of course, just time or distance, the fact that we some of us have moved away, or some of us just haven't had that connection, and we kind of moved apart from each other, right? But overall, I still kept a lot in different phases of my life. And so every time when it comes to my birthday, in the past, for a big celebration, I try to bring everyone together. But the challenge I find when we do that, it's fun and all, but it's hard to be able to catch up or connect and have conversations. And so I find the smaller groups are always much better, right? And so now, which means we have to, and I'm blessed enough that I have different groups where we celebrate each other's birthdays. So then I have a group of, lady friends who are entrepreneurs, leaders in the Vietnamese community. And we got to celebrate my birthday and another fellow friend, early in February. And then I also have other groups, but that's how it comes about, that I have all these multiple groups. And then I even have friends who appreciate just the one-on-one, which means that I feel blessed, like you said, in a way that people are putting the time and energy out there. And I also try to do the same. And I know that people said, aren't you busy? You got your family, you got your business. Business will always be there. I understand my family's there, but I mean, unless I feel like I'm neglecting my children, which I don't feel like I am, I feel like I do put in the energy and time. And so I value all of these relationships. So I try to put in as much time and effort into these relationships as I can, but I have also learned to create boundaries. I've learned to say no to certain things that is not nourishing. For example, I am not interested in going to a house party every weekend. That's just not me anymore, where we're just eating and drinking. But I'm all good with having a one-on-one conversation, sitting down, catching up with each other. So once a month, there's a birthday celebration, I'll come out. But besides that, I need to do other things that nourishes me. Or I would rather invite some friends to go on a mindfulness retreat or a meditation retreat, or go to a spa day where we spend the whole day and we can catch up and talk. So it has to be activities where it's not just about sitting, eating, and drinking.
I feel like
nothing wrong with that. Once in a while, I enjoy it.
If I could give a picture or an example of what your friend list looks like, it's like imagine a closet, or imagine a closet full of clothes, and you've got outfits from when you were a baby up until now, and you know the only ones that get thrown away are the ones that you forget,
or maybe they're ripped.
The outfits that you forget in somewhere, or you've lent them out to another friend or what have you. But it's jam packed and it's overpacked and it's busting at your closet's busting at the seams, and you never get to purge that list. But you definitely, for as packed as it is, you always make an event or the time to wear each one of those outfits.
For sure.
Sometimes it's not for a while, but you'll get to it eventually.
That's a great analogy. I can see that. It's kind of like you have 365 days in a year, and as long as I wear them at least once a year, then I make good.
At least. Well, some of them, they might be once every couple of years. I mean, depending on where they live and stuff like that, right?
For sure. And it depends, and everyone has a different definition of what is a good relationship for them, and what type of people they want to be part of their inner circle. And I respect that. I might not be the type either, but I do feel that I want to live my life with no regrets. So and I can't justify and say I'm far from a perfect friend. You know what I mean? In the past. But I know that genuinely, I'm always available to listen, to embrace, to support someone when they truly need it. However, I do know I also need to set boundaries if that friend is constantly just looking for company, one, they're miserable over and over again. Like as a friend, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I will listen. So let's say there's something trauma going through your life. I don't mind listening. However, I feel like if next week we talk about the same thing and I listen, it's just fine. But if it continues on and there's no solution, there is no attempt to try to change it, to try to improve that, to try to make something out of it, like at least reflect on what the lesson is and how to learn it. But what if all we're doing is just complaining to each other?
What if in the case that it was something the following week that triggered them, or the week after that it triggered them again, something else happened and it triggered them again, but it's all down to the same sort of...
Which I think is fine, but then now you have to look at every other aspect of their life. Meaning, for example, recently I was hurt by an issue, for example.
Yeah, right? let's get down to the brass tacks. We've been sort of dancing around.
That's okay.
Why don't we share? Why don't we share with what happened? What do you want to share with?
I feel like I kind of shared it already on social media, but sure. Like for example, I felt hurt because I noticed sometimes in my gut, I don't even know what it is. I have a group of friends and we've been friends for a long time, and I noticed in the last couple of years there's just been a lot of like things that are said behind each other's back, and not anything bad, but it's kind of like maybe certain dissatisfaction, and then slowly the groups start to have like little side groups and cliques. And for me, I hate to know like, okay, so did I do something wrong? Like, how come I'm not
'Cause
including
this
in
is,
certain events? And
this is to give everybody a picture. This is a group of how many would you say lady friends are there in that group?
There's like about like a core of, I would say for me, I look at the people that I met from years ago. So I always value based, I'm a very loyal person.
Yeah.
So for example, that group of friends I have, let's say
some of them
someone
are
that
from
I met.
elementary.
Yeah, I met
Some of them,
elementary school.
majority of them from high school.
And then some I met in high school. And then some I just met in the last 5 years.
Right.
Who are great. But
yeah. But how many would you say are in that quote unquote core? And I would say that because there have been some that you've been friends with since elementary school, obviously, and then some that at high school, and then some were added in and out within the last several years.
I would say like I do have a group that they kind of all know each other, and that would have been like maybe 6 or 8 of us.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
No,
more?
there's like
10?
15 or
No.
20.
Well,
there is.
Well, I guess if you said 15 and 20, but it now comes down to maybe just 8 of us. Because if I had to name them all, I could name them all.
No, but they're all within that same sort of group.
Yeah, but here's what I mean. Like, I met a few of them when I was in grade 4, and then they have friends that they introduced me in grade 5 and 6. And then I don't count the friends that I actually eventually I never really hung out with, but I only kind of know of through
but
my
friends.
friends.
In that circle, like when we went to celebrate Lunar New Year, there are more than 8 lady friends there. There's got to be at least.
I'm not counting. I'm not counting, but a lot of them didn't hang out with each other either. It's kind of like friends of friends. So what I'm trying to say is that for me, I look at the ones that I look back in my life, and I look at the ones that were my friend first, right? So let's say a couple of them were always my friends, and unfortunately, some of them do not talk to each other anymore. For example.
Yes.
But I respect that. But
yeah.
I respect that, and I stay neutral because I don't want to take sides. Everyone have their own perspective.
Sure.
Everyone have their own story. And the way I see it, if 2 friends are kind of fighting and have an issue, it's so hard to really know the truth because everyone have their own stories. And the best thing that you can do is to respect both and say, hey, I respect that you're no longer talking to each other, but I will stay neutral, and I will respect the same. I'll show up for the other one as I show up for the other. And I hope you don't make me pick sides, because that's what I would assume as we age and become an adult. We're not back in the days where, oh, you're a friend with her, I'm not a friend with you anymore. Not like that. So if I always try to be that way. I don't know how people perceive that though. Some people might say you can't do that, but I feel for the most part, most of my friends are very accepting of the fact that I'm just neutral. I don't take sides. And I enjoy that because I keep it separate. I enjoy my time with these friends. I learn things from them. I enjoy my time. But what I noticed in the last couple of years is, without telling me what's happening, I'm not included in a lot of different things where I thought these were also my friends. Meaning, I hang out with a different group, but some of those girls don't talk to these girls, which is normal, right? I will respect that. But I'm not saying I'm not going to talk to you. So I'm still your friend. I still show up, but I'm noticing I'm being excluded out of things. I never really brought it up because it's not a big deal to me. And when I did brought it up in the past, the thing that was told to me is, well, you hang out with other friends too anyways. But there's nothing wrong with people hanging out and having different friends. What they don't understand is what I'm talking about is the exact same group that we always hang out. So if I'm hanging out with someone else and that girl specifically say she doesn't want to hang out with someone in that group, I'm not going to disrespect her
But
and
it's
bring
not.
that
But it's
individual.
not. The thing that I think you're not considering is that it's not the same group, because there are new people that have sort of taken a role in that
Yeah,
quote
and
unquote core group
yes,
of girls.
and for me, the challenge here is I've never been like that. There could be a new individual that's added to. Then see, that's where it's cliquey to this new group. But my relationship is always loyal with my old friends. No one has to be perfect. I don't care that the new individual is rich, is smarter, prettier, got everything. My relationship lies in the fact that I value my old friends. So it doesn't matter to me, right? I would love this new individual that brought into that group. However, I still am loyal. And that's what I guess, this is where expectations sometimes can be interesting, right? Maybe I expect my friend to be the same.
For sure.
I expect my friends that, hey, you just hung out with this individual for 2 years, right? A lot more. But if you had friends that you've been around for like years who were there with you, my hope is you also value those relationships, right? But I noticed that, there's certain things, and of course, I noticed that I'm starting to be excluded out of certain things. So that's where it started to, I said, I wonder why, like, did I do something wrong? Or maybe they just never thought about it. And then something happened a couple weeks ago that didn't sit right with me. And instead of me, I figure it's easy enough. If I want to, I just go to another group of my friend who also know the other group long time ago and bash, about them and just kind of bad mouth and say, oh my God, these girls, they're this, they're that. And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So I approached them. Mind you, maybe the way I approached could have been a better timing. Maybe the way I approached, what I say could have been done in a more eloquent way. I don't doubt, but I was hurt and a little bit angry at the same time. So I shared. Anyway, so long story short, when I did share that, I got backlash by my friend saying that, at the end of the day, you should know me better. And if not, it's okay. Goodbye and take care, right? So that hurted my feelings a lot. And then I guess for me, the way I heal is different than my friends. A lot of them keep it inside. They don't need to share it publicly. But for me, the way I heal is not just reflect about it, but talk. And I don't mind talking and sharing it publicly like I am doing it right now, because I do know that for a lot of people hold things inside. Now, if you're talking publicly and you're bringing names and you're bad-mouthing people, it's very different than versus reflecting and trying to use this platform as a way to process and have other people. I value other people's opinion. So when you put things out publicly, you get all sorts of feedback back. You don't know whether it's good feedback. And I hope that not everybody's gonna be like, hey, you're 100% right. Maybe there are people who listen and said, well, have you ever thought of it this way? And I have people who said, you know what, maybe just, reading too much into things. But what I value is they communicate with me. What I start to realize is in a friendship where I assume these are friends, and I, whether or not I spend a lot of time, but in my mind, I consider them as my true friends. And to not be able to communicate in a way where there's that back and forth dialogue to understand, kind of give me this kind of aha or insights where it's either they already give up on that relationship, or they already portrayed me a certain way and I'm not even worth their time to even have a conversation. Or for a long time they already said, you know what, she is what she is, I don't need to bother her. And if she start complaining about things, then now we know she's not the type of friend we want to be around with. And I respect that. So, but something in my gut just needed to clarify. Like, you know what I mean? It's not because I would love to continue to be in the life of these girls, but if they don't think that the way that I handle things or the way I communicate or the way that I bring up things is important, like it is jiving with the way that they are, that's fine. I respect that. And I would go my separate way. It was tough at first to see what could lead someone to totally cut someone off, because in your own eyes, you always feel like you're the good guy. You know what I
Of
mean?
course, yeah.
Like in your own eyes, you always think you're the hero. You're the one that's speaking up. You're the one that wants this opportunity. But I've learned to accept that in other people's stories, you're not always the good guy. In other people, that's correct. You can be the worst villain, the devil, whatever they say. But what's important is, can you sleep with yourself at night? Right? And so I asked myself that, did what I did was so terrible that I can't sleep with myself at night? You know,
But there were a couple nights that you had a hard time sleeping.
Because I'm hurt,
Yeah.
and I was crying. But at the end of the day, you know, that was important. I think that's important. That's important. It's part of grieving. It's like grieving a friendship or relationship that you thought was, you know, stronger than it is.
So do you now, reflecting on the last, you know, because you've spent a lot of time sort of reflecting with different people, getting advice from, you know, you've been getting advice from your peers who were in that group who have left. You've gotten, you know, you've talked it out with friends, your you know, your sort of your OG friends who give you like an elder sister type of perspective on things. You've spoken to, you know, all your other different girlfriends who are sort of you know, one step back and kind of, they're not really involved so much. What would you say is the overall sort of outcome or revelation that you've gained from it all?
You know what? There's a lot, and I feel the revelation is that no matter what, it's hard to be confrontational, and every time you do it, you're gonna look back and wish you did it better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but you will never do it better until you start. Because when you look, you're always saying, oh, I could have said that in a nicer way. I could have been more like, you know, this way. Because when someone else take the way that you communicate the wrong way, it's also a lesson. But if you never did it and you just kind of ignore it, well, if I ignore it, then for me, I will go through life not like, let's say we kind of draw apart, and I just know that there will always be questions in my head, like, should I have said something? You know, why did I just kind of let it be? And I think sometimes it's okay. Like, often it's okay to let it be and let it go. But if you truly care about something, I truly believe you should raise your opinion. You should raise your voice, right? It's almost like if you saw a friend being cheated on, right? You know she would never believed it. Do you say to tell her, or you don't? Because if you tell her, you're the bad guy, right? But if you don't tell her, you're also the bad guy.
Yeah.
So either way, you're the bad guy. So you just have to do what is the best you feel. So if you can sleep at night, if you tell someone knowing you can sleep at night, that would be the best course of action. And if that person says, I can't believe you said that, me and my husband are good, we will not include you in our life anymore, well, that's the decision that they make, right? But if not say anything, and knowing certain things are happening, and you know your friend is being taken advantage of and taken for granted, that's where you cannot sleep at night. Yeah. So for me, saying my piece is so key nowadays, because as I age, I don't want to hold on to things. It's like holding on to, you know, garbage that sits there and spoils up. You just gotta let it out. You know, now you want to, of course, learn on how to let things out eloquently, ask for permission first. I look back on the way I communicate, and I always say, you know, there's so many ways I could have done it in a better way, but it is what it is. Yeah. And if we were meant to have long-term relationships, some people come into our life for a certain part of our life, and we learned a lot from them. And we move on, right? And we also wish them well. For me, I don't wish anything bad upon people that are no longer part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I wish them well. However, it does hurt. Like, I'd be lying to say, because when you see them happy, like, you want to be part of that celebration as well too, right? And if you're not, of course, deep down, like, I'm a human being, and anyone says they don't care, or that to me means that there's still a lot of anger inside. If they were your friends at one point and you truly don't care, I don't know how people do that, but I care. So part of it would be learning to let go. You want to see them do well, and I know time. The important part is time will heal, right? So time, I feel like, will heal everything, but time alone, actually, I have to add, it's not just time, it's what you do in that time. Because time sometimes don't heal if you keep it buried. You think it's healing you, but you're just avoiding the situation and you continue on. But time will heal is because through that time you're reflecting. Maybe you go to therapy, maybe you talk to different people, you get perspective, you meet new friends, you build new relationships, and the time will teach you, oh my gosh, those things happen for a reason. Yeah. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned, and it's kind of quite fitting that it's around my birthday as I age another year. So that means there's more wisdom, right? Every year I kind of embrace challenges and things that happen in my life that are a little bit unexpected. Because I feel like that's how I grow. Like, that's the best way for me to grow. It's not like I constantly wish these things happen, but I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm so comfortable and nothing ever changed, then I'm not growing either, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, when you think about it, that I think the toughest part of it all is that there's no answers, and no one's willing to answer any questions. And it's sort of, now we just kind of have to leave it as,
yeah. Because I said, I invite and I open up for a conversation, but no one wants to say. One person shut me out, the other person answer very vaguely and not, to the point. And at the end of the day, there is no answer. And it's almost like they assume that I should know the answer. But here's the thing, if you live through life, you're in a relationship. Imagine you're in a relationship, and all you do is, you should know me. You should know me. How does that healthy? How is that gonna build a relationship? I don't know you. Even my mom don't know me. You know what I mean? How could anyone expect to know anyone? And our answer should never be, you should know me better. If we're friends, we should know each other. So that's the way I see it, is maybe I don't know. That's why I'm talking. And if talking is uncomfortable for you, then you have other challenges that you're going to have to deal with. Not me. I'm not the only challenge. If you cannot communicate things well, then the way I see it is,
at our age.
At our age, if we cannot even communicate properly, you have other issues in you that you got to work through.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So it's your birthday coming up soon too. So hopefully nothing too crazy happens.
See, it's not my birth month. March is not my birth month. I have a birthday, a date, and I plan to do very, very low key. I'm going to get together with my homies, my old high school friends. We're going to go watch a Raptors game. And
it's confirmed?
Well, we're still waiting to see if we can get tickets.
Okay.
But it's funny enough, and ironically enough, it's with a group of friends who, in similar nature, we've sort of grown apart. And I, like you, feel like I always put in the effort, and it could be wrong. I mean, we've had so many ups and downs, and there's been people that have come and gone into the group. But for the most part, they've all remained sort of the same. But I always feel like I put in an effort to try to organize for us to get together, and definitely the effort is not reciprocated at all. Out of the 5 or 6 of us, is always me and one other guy who kind of do all the organizing and planning, and we're always inviting people over to our place and stuff like that, and they just got to show up, but they don't. But I think after the experience of kind of going through the challenges that you have gone through, I could be wrong. I feel like men and women, with their respective genders, handle things like this a little bit different. I couldn't see a situation where, I don't know any situations where, like, if the guy were to be sort of shunned from the group, I just don't see many circumstances of that happening unless he had really done something like he
unless you've been
had an
annoying
affair
them.
with a what I mean, or something like he had done something where they felt the need to exclude him,
or maybe you annoyed them for so many years and they never said anything.
I don't know. I feel like it just doesn't. I don't see it happening a lot in my
And guys,
social.
Well, girls can be more emotional. I'm definitely an emotional being.
Yeah.
I do embrace my emotions.
Yeah.
I don't hide it and I let it out. But it's been serving me well when I do that.
Yeah.
And it helps me become a better person for my family, for myself, right? Because at the end of the day, like, all of these things are practices for me as well too. And these practices help me become a better person for the people I actually care about and the people who care about me. Because I feel if they put in the time and effort to care about me, they do deserve the best version of me. So, the best way to kind of honor their love is to continue to grow and be a better you, right? Yeah. I mean, the topic of relationships, I feel like these things are not just about friendships. They could be about a relationship with a parent, with a colleague, with a boss, in a marriage. Like, these little intricacies in just being confrontation can happen at work, can happen with a client, can happen with, in any situation, right? And confrontation is something most of us shy away from. Yeah, because it's hard. Like, you just don't know how to express yourself without making
blowing
the
up.
other, and making the other person offended.
Yeah.
So you try your best. And we were never taught in school how to do it.
Yeah.
And we're taught to just be quiet, stay silent, just deal with it.
Yeah.
Kind of like grow some balls and deal with it. But that's old school mentality, the way that I see it. It's like, well, the best way to deal with it is just don't assume. The best way to deal with it is have the talk with the individual that you feel is hurting you. They might help you shed some light, right? So if you're in a relationship and your partner is doing things that you're not happy, well, what's the best way to share that? I mean, you can, in certain relationship, if two people don't talk about it, then it start coming out, but it's in your thoughts, right? It's not like it's not anywhere. It's in our thoughts. We're not able to verbalize it. We're not able to feel it. Then guess what? It's going to kind of manifest itself in other actions. So even like a cold shoulder, or you can tell, like, when you're like, are you okay, Mike? I'm like, are you okay, John? Like, you take certain actions that are kind of rude, that are kind of like, so because in one way or another, it's going to be let out, right? And it can be let out in destructive ways, or it can be let out in healthy ways, right? And I feel the healthiest way is to communicate and talk to each other. But destructive ways is when what happens is when you say something and I just say, you're crazy. Psh,
you dismiss it.
I did miss you. So guess what? You're going to be angry. You're going to be continue to say, well, this person, and then it pushes you to do things that might be more destructive versus me saying, you know what, right now I don't have the capacity, but I think it's important that we talk about this. Let's set a time or schedule it or something like that.
Yeah, but you don't schedule it. You just like to deal with it right then and there.
Sometimes, I guess, most of the times. Hey, you gotta live and learn, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, I think part of being able to voice what you think in your head is it's something that a lot of people have a fear of, and I think always practicing dealing with your fear is just gonna help you leap forward in so many ways. It's not easy.
Well, yeah, for sure. Like when you're communicating, people always just think that it's one person is they've got the sharing stick or the talking stick, and the other person has to listen.
Yeah.
When there's a lot more to it with communicating. You have your thoughts and your feelings, and then you have to speak those thoughts and feelings. And sometimes, or a lot of times, how you speak, how you think, and you feel, the way you put it into words, especially if you're not well read,
Yeah.
it can come off a certain way.
That's right.
And then on the other hand, there's the person who's listening, and how they hear the message, and then how they think and sort of digest and process that message.
And then differently.
And then so for me to say something, it's easy for me to say, well, I said this, this is how you should understand how I've said it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's when it's communicating, there's more than just the message and the receiving of the message. There's a lot more to it, and it's,
And what you remind me is what I'm learning through a program called the Grace Foundational Course that I helped put together with one of my coach, where it's really about the lens that we wear, right? So you can observe life like the person next to you, and when we observe, that means the things we see with our senses, things we see, we taste, we hear. But depending on the lens that we wear, it's so different. So if we're always wearing the victim lens, meaning we're always the one being punished or victimized.
It's always,
so when someone says something, it's always like, here you go again, they're blaming me. But even if they don't have an intention of blaming, if you're wearing a victim lens, you're always gonna feel there's a part of whatever is being communicated, something happened to you, and you're like, see here, I'm just bad luck. Here we go again. This happens to me. And so it all depends on the lens that we wear. Now, imagine if you wear a different lens, and your lens is everything is always working out for me, and then occasionally things happen, and you're like, oh, things happen, but that's okay. Everything else is gonna work out. It's just part of life.
Yeah.
So then you don't internalize it, you don't continue to dwell on it, but you focus on moving. But if you have the victim lens, you're starting to feel bad about it, and you're starting to once again now
place the blame.
Exactly. So it's like, but unless you're aware that you're wearing lenses, you're not gonna know. It's like a lot of us are walking around life like a corpse. That's how I put it, is we're like zombies walking around. And because if we're not self-aware enough and we don't do any type of reflections, you're not even aware what's leading you. You're not even aware that there's an ego inside of you. You're not even aware that these are the lenses you wear. Because why? No one taught you, right? And if you never seek out to learn, well, how would you know? Yeah. Right? So I do believe that it's important to always learn about yourself. Like yourself is the biggest thing. And this is why people go to therapy. This is why people have coaches. This is why people read. It's really, and this is why personally for me, I like meeting a lot of people, and I like having conversations. And I don't like just meeting people who are always thinking I'm right. Because it's almost like you can justify you. So imagine if I decided to steal from someone And then all I want to do is hang around with people who steal. So what do you think they're going to think? Stealing is awesome. Stealing is right. And they're going to continue to tell me that. So I deliberately like to hang out with different people with different opinions, who are opinionated. And I don't need them to agree with me, because I feel like when I listen to what they have to say and the way that they behave, it allows me to reflect and say, am I really am I right? Or am I, is that really true of how life is? Life is not about stealing from other people. When I notice there are people who are giving, who are generous, right? And I think it's like, that's why I enjoy, and I don't like being in a comfort, like being comfortable in a certain group where all of us think alike. I like being challenged, and I like meeting new people who are constantly teaching me about new things. And I think that's where I learn, right? Sometimes people might not like that, because when you're in a setting where someone kind of like raised an opinion against you, you might get hurt. But that hurt is not you, it's your ego. Your ego is being hurt, because your ego always want to be right. Your ego always want to look good to the world around you. And when your ego is being crushed, you don't like that. But when you realize that you are not your ego, then you can say, that's just my ego. Whatever. I know who I am. I know my true self, and I don't need to be offended.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a journey of continuously learning to be self-aware, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. There's a lot of wisdom in your words today. So I'm just sitting back and sort of reflecting as well.
Yeah, you know what? And I have to say, I'm very blessed that I surround myself with a lot of amazing people. You yourself, even in the fact that I chose you as my partner, is part of my learning, as well as I like to live life where I know I made the decision, I made the choice. It didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I chose you, right, for a reason, because you're always challenging me. You accept me for who I am, but you're always also challenging me. And then
your mom told you that I would be a great father.
I don't know about that. But I also chose certain friends when I realized I have a choice. When you're young, you don't feel that way, but as you older, you realize I have a choice in life. Yeah. So I deliberately choose to be close to those who I feel would be a positive impact in my life, that I'm learning something from, I'm growing and improving, and by being surrounded by them, I'm just gonna get better.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's, versus saying, well, I was born this way, or those are the people I know. So you just have to make that choice. Yeah. So I guess I'm now thinking, what was the point to that? But I guess my point to that would be is we all have a choice to make in life. Don't say you don't. Yeah. Even in the toughest time, you have the choice.
That's why I say purge your darn closet and get rid of those, outfits that are out of style and
does it fit you
that
anymore?
Don't fit anymore. Yes.
and wear the comfortable ones that fit you and make you feel good.
No. You make the outfit feel good.
That's right. You make the outfit look good. That's right. Well, I feel like, wow, we're like talking almost an hour now, going deep into some thoughts on relationships and things like that.
Yeah.
But anything else that you want to share about?
No, not right now.
Well, you know what? Our anniversary is coming up in a couple of days, so I look forward.
6 more days. 10 years we've been married.
Yeah, 10 years we've been married. Had many ups and downs, many challenges. But I find what helped us, I just speak for myself, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, is I remember back then I had a lot of expectations for John, and I was unhappy, and I was not sure of how to approach it until...
Is this pre-marriage or post-marriage?
Post-marriage, after we had kid. But I realize when I start working with a coach that I need to focus on me. Like, who cares what is happening with John, but focus on, am I being like the partner that John would want? Am I being the wife that John would want? And I just focus on me being better. And if John decides to grow with me, then we will grow. We'll grow together, and our relationship will be much stronger.
Yeah.
But if I start to grow and John start to kind of like grow, not grow, and go, then what's going to happen is there'll be a bigger separation in our relationship. And that's at the point where then you would decide maybe it's better we go our separate ways.
It's much
right?
like marriage is much like friendships.
Yeah. So then as I decide to grow and grow, not worrying about setting expectations on John, then what I realize is John then also start to grow and want to work on those relations.
I'm a competitive person too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's competitive. So you're like, well, she's getting better.
That's right.
I'm going to get better too.
Yeah.
And then we kind of meet each other at a nicer, higher level.
Yeah.
And it strengthens our relationship.
With a better view.
Yeah, so if I did nothing and sat there and complained and expect, I guess then you would have stayed the same.
Yeah, or gone on a different path.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Who knows?
Yeah, so I guess for me, that would be the first. I'll just share one tip for our anniversary, 10-year anniversary, for other couples or, married couples that, at the end of the day, just really focus on working on yourself to improve every day, but learn to communicate. And another is make sure you do prioritize your relationship, because I think as you work on yourself, it's also easy to see, oh my God, I'm so different than him. I've grown so different. We're so different. But remember, you're also a partner as well. And in partnership, there are decisions you have to make that is important for the partnership that might not be the best for you. It shouldn't hurt you, but it might not be like always ideal for you, but it's the best for the relationship. So also put that ahead as well too. And that way it is a balance act. It's a juggle. It's not easy, but it's important if you want the marriage to work, if you want a household of people who are always finding ways to create joy, to experience new things together. It is, to me, always fun to have a partner in life than to go along life by yourself. Not to say if you're doing it by yourself, there's anything wrong with it. However, I know for a matter of fact that a lot of people, if they were to be able to find that right partner, they rather have the right partner. It's always nice to have companion. We're a social being. We're not meant to be isolated by ourselves. We're meant to be in social group.
So at least with one person. My sort of advice for married couples or couples that are, well, I guess if you're choosing a partner or you're married, choose somebody that that challenges you, and then on the other hand, don't be afraid to challenge your partner. I think a lot of times, for both men and women, they've got a group of, when you're in a situation where you need comforting, you've got friends who are there to comfort you, and I think you've got that already. So sometimes, don't be afraid to challenge your partner to continue to grow and learn, and don't let them sit around. Give them time to reflect and give them time to sort of get over whatever it is that they have to overcome. But at the same time, help pick them up, challenge them, and help them grow to get to that sort of next stage in their lives and in your lives as partners. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and I think we're good for this episode.
Next week.
Have a good day. Bye bye.